Running only accelerates the venom.
Welcome to this ultimate guide for Cassiopeia. With plenty of in-game footage, it will help you understand the basics and advanced techniques when playing Cassio. It includes stats from the best solo queue and pro players, with detailed info on runes, items, combos, matchups, and more. I'm Zoose, and let's get this guide started. If you're thinking about playing Cass, hit that like button just so I know how many of you are interested. Before we get into the main content, let's quickly go over Cassiopeia's abilities. Her passive grants Cass speed based on level, but prevents her from buying boots, which has spouted the meme Cass no boots lol. Her Q, Noxious Blast, is a small AoE skill shot that blasts a target area. Enemies hit are poisoned for damage over time, and Cass gains movement speed if it hits an enemy champion. Her W, Miasma, shoots out a large AoE poison field which poisons, slows, and grounds enemies within it. Grounded basically means they can't use any abilities or spells to escape, including dashes and blinks. Her E, Twin Fang, is a click target spell that deals magic damage. If an enemy is poisoned, it deals bonus AP damage and heals Cass for a small amount. It also returns the mana cost if it kills or the target dies mid Twin Fang flight. Finally, her ultimate, Petrifying Gaze, deals AP damage in a cone in front of her, stunning enemies that are facing Cass or slowing those facing away. We'll go over tips and tricks for these abilities in detail in the following sections. In terms of maxing spells, you want to max Q first with Luden's Comet build and max E first with a tier Phase Rush build. We'll go into detail in the following sections. There are two major runes taken by Cassiopeia players, Arcane Comet and Phase Rush. Let's first go over the most popular and effective rune for most situations, Arcane Comet. Cass makes optimal use of Arcane Comet's cooldown reduction with her spamming spells playstyle. Every time Cass lands a spell on an enemy champ, she'll get some extra damage from this Comet. With her mix of AoE, damage over time, and single target damage from E, she'll significantly reduce the cooldown of Comet, resulting in more Comets over time. Additionally, the AoE from Comet makes it ideal for poke damage in teamfights. The first keystone is Mana Flow Ring. It will give Cass extra mana sustain when she hits an enemy with a spell. After 10 stacks, at 250 mana, she'll gain 1% missing mana regen. Nullifying Orb can be viable against enemies that have a chance to burst you, providing a magic shield at low health. The second keystone is Transcendence, providing 10% CDR at level 10, additionally providing AP if Cass exceeds 40% CDR. We'll go over items in that section. A very close second choice is Absolute Focus, providing Cass extra AP while she's above 70% HP. This has been less favorable since the recent nerfs, but it's still viable. Celerity is also viable, providing that you consistently land Q and need the extra movement speed. The final keystone is Scorch. Cass is a huge lane bully in most matchups, therefore the extra damage you gain from this is perfect. Gathering Storm is viable if you don't see yourself dominating lane or you want to focus on reaching late game, since it provides AP over time. Certain builds and playstyles will focus on farming, so we'll cover that in Phase Rush and items, specifically the tier into Seraph's build. The second most optimal and common path is Domination. Taste of Blood heals Cass for a small amount of HP whenever she damages an enemy champ. Ravenous Hunter heals for a percentage of damage dealt by Cass's abilities, increasing to a total of 14% at max stacks. You gain 1 stack of 2.5% for unique enemy takedowns. These two keystones help Cass stay healthy throughout the game, and the spell spamming from Cass makes this optimal for her playstyle. You can replace Taste of Blood with Cheap Shot, as you'll deal some true damage when enemies are slowed with your W and when you have Rylai's. Another second path worth mentioning is Inspiration. Perfect timing can prove useful against champs like Zed, Talon, etc., as well as reducing the cost of the inevitable Zhonya's purchase. Cosmic Insight for the CDR in multiple areas. Biscuit Delivery for the early HP and mana sustain early. Tonic for the enhanced healing properties from potions. And Minion Dematerializer for faster and safer wave clear, helping you deal more damage to minions. Any of these can be mixed and matched to fit your specific situation. The second major rune option is Phase Rush. Hitting an enemy champ with 3 attacks or abilities will provide Cass 25 to 40% movement speed and 75% slow resistance. This complements her playstyle of dealing consistent damage over time, providing her the movement speed she needs to stick to a target as well as positioning in teamfights. This specific rune goes best with a tier into Seraph's build, which we'll discuss in the items. You can replace Arcane Comet and pick your keystones accordingly. And the second paths remain the same as previously discussed in Domination and Inspiration. The most common start is Doran's Ring plus 2 health pots. HP, mana regen, and extra damage to minions provides everything Cass needs early game. Another common and effective start is Corrupting Potion. Even though it doesn't provide stats, the HP plus mana regen as well as the burn passive allows Cass to spam abilities for those hard trades and poke. A Dark Seal increases the healing from Corrupting Potion, which makes it a solid first back item, as well as providing AP mana and a chance to snowball with some AP per takedown. The first major buy we'll go over is Ludens. This is the best item for the Arcane Comet rune. Providing AP, mana, and some extra scaling burst from its Echo passive, this item helps Cass reach an early power spike. Its build path, specifically the Lost Chapter, guarantees mana to get you through the laning phase, whether it's for hard trading with enemies or clearing waves. The other major buy, which is specifically best for Phase Rush playstyle, is the tier into Seraph's Embrace. The tier will stack up mana as you use abilities, so it's a scaling playstyle. You can finish the completed item Archangel Staff early, but it's most effective once it's a fully stacked Seraph's Embrace, granting you a shield active that scales on current mana. Just to confirm, you can still purchase a tier into Seraph's with Arcane Comet rune, but if you choose Phase Rush, tier is pretty much necessary. So what if you decide to go with Arcane Comet? What's better, Ludens or Xeraths? If you predict an aggressive early game with plenty of fighting, you need to prioritize damage early, so Ludens is best. It will still provide mana, but you must manage it carefully. If the game is slow paced, you can go with a first buy tier and start stacking. You will lose a lot of damage pressure early, but around 20 minutes, you'll have a big power spike. You'll deal way more consistent damage over time, which can be particularly useful against tankier enemy team comps. Coupled with Phase Rush, you'll be able to kite most enemies. Whether you've opted for a tier or Ludens, the next items are mostly situational, but I would say Rylai's and Leandri's are the next most optimal items. Rylai's, which is a pretty cheap item, will provide slows, allowing you to land Qs easier. If possible, landing an E first will provide a stronger slow since it's single target. This will lead to an easier landing of your Q. Enemies will have little chance of escaping once you start spamming E. Leandri's as the third buy, providing a useful damage over time passive, perfect for HP stacked enemy teams. AP, HP, and Magic Pen greatly synergizes with Cass. Zhonya's can be purchased after Ludens or tier against certain threats like Zed or Talon. Stopwatch may be enough for a game-changing play. Void Staff may be necessary earlier if enemies start stacking him up. If MR isn't a problem, and you find yourself ahead with plenty of gold, get that Death Cap. You'll literally have potential to 1v5, so go in hard if you have enough experience under your belt. Morellos might be needed earlier against certain healing comps such as Soraka, Mundo, Vlad, Draven, etc. If you've already got a Dark Seal and are snowballing, Mage Eyes is fine, but I would still recommend first completing a tier or at least a Lost Chapter for the mana. Banshees is a solid defensive option against team comps with great CC pick potential, like Veigar, Thresh, Blitz, etc. A tankier option is Spirit Visage. As well as providing MR and HP, the increased healing will make you a sustained monster, since it will empower your spell vamp. If there are 3 or more AP threats, perhaps an Abyssal Mask, even as a second item, would make it extremely optimal for that situation. Spellmother is a fun item, providing some extra movement speed and burst. Roar was once the main purchase for Cass. Coupled with Seraphs, it would guarantee Cass a monstrous late game. However, with the changing metas favoring a more aggressive early game, it is no longer needed on Cass. I could not find a single Roar build in the last 300 pro players' history. Metas may change, and therefore I will leave it at the end as an honorable mention. Flash is the first summoner. Perfect for gap closing, escapes, and those sick ult flash combos, which will be explained in the next section. The second summoner spell is situational. With the Ignite nerf early in Season 9, other summoners have moved up in priority. So in no specific order, let's go through them. Ignite, true damage over time and a Grievous Wound passive, mostly taken if you want early game dominance and plan to kill your laner. It won't be as good late game when defensive summoners are necessary. TP is useful for those tougher lanes when you may need to early back and TP in order to stay even on CS and XP. It can also be used to join fights, whether it's around objectives or surprise gank bot or top lane. It's also very useful if you're going for the tier build. Cleanse is highly advisable against certain hard CCs like Lyssandra's ult. Heal, a more popular defensive summoner, heals you or a nearby ally and provides some movement speed. Exhaust against some heavy AD burst threats like Yasuo or Zed. Barrier can help you survive some high burst champs. slightly better than heal as it is immune to grievous wounds. Finally, Ghost. Cass's consistent damage playstyle requires constant positioning, so this complements her. When kiting is the main priority, this is one of the better summoners. There really is no perfect second summoner for Cass, and ever since the Ignite nerf, picking for your specific situation is advised. There aren't many combos involved with Cassiopeia's playstyle, but we'll still cover ways to get the most optimal damage. Ult plus flash combo. R in the target direction, then immediately flash. This does two things. It helps close distance on enemies further away, and catches enemies by surprise. This is useful for making picks, attempting to hit that 5-man ult stun, and generally outplaying your opponent. You can sometimes even face away right before this combo to put their guard down. Optimal combos for damage. Level 2 lane bully trade. If you can hit level 2 before your laner and then land a Q, you can spam E and go for an all-in. If you've taken Ignite, you'll have a high chance to first blood some enemies. W, Q, E. Your W is the easiest to hit and it applies a slow. Follow up with Q, which is easier to land, then spam E. This will cost a lot of mana early, so make it count. Full optimal combo. R, Q, E, W, E spam. If you're able to stun them with R, you have a guaranteed Q, then you can E, W so they can't instantly flash after the stun, then spam E and Q when it's up again. Even if you only slow them with your ult, you'll still have a high chance to land your Q. Again, Cass isn't so much about combos, but rather how well you consistently deal damage while positioning. Consider her the equivalent of an ADC, but an AP version. With enough games under your belt, her abilities will be a muscle memory for you and she'll feel very smooth to play. Although there are plenty of tips throughout this guide, let's go over some more. Since you can't buy boots, you have an extra item slot. This gives Cassiopeia great diversity in defensive and offensive options. Use your Q to check brushes. If you hit an enemy champ, you'll have the Noxious Blast icon above your abilities as well as the extra movement speed. Your Q has a small delay. Try to land it when the enemy goes to auto minions, as they'll be standing still. Q and W does not reveal you while you're in a brush. Use this to your advantage. W zoning. Use it in tight spaces around the jungle or even over walls. Use it to stop enemies when you predict they will flash. If you're getting ganked, use it to slow and ground the major threat while you're running. If you miss your Q, some enemies may think it's okay to go aggressive. Quickly use W and spam E. Spam E even if you miss Q in team fights. Just make sure you have enough mana at this point of the game. Max E first will require a tier because of the massive cost, so keep that in mind. Always use your E to last hit. You can E spam for wave clear as you won't lose mana, and this will make it very easy to last hit under tower. Even if you're low HP, the amount of spell vamp you gain from E while they're poisoned is enough to keep you alive, so keep spamming. I've survived a lot of situations simply by the amount of spell vamp I had on Cassio. The poison buff from E also works on enemies poisoned by teammates such as Twitch, Singe, Teemo, so look for these champs for extra synergy. Don't use E in lane against non-poison enemies. The mana cost is just too high for the small damage it deals, unless they're almost dead. Ult stuns are much easier to land on already CC champs, so try to chain your CC with your teammates. Your ult doesn't have to be the only way you engage, so keep in mind that it's just as equally good defensively and can be even easier to stun enemies when they're running at you. Strengths. High DPS. Her E spamming, especially if you hit your Q, can shred most tanks mid to late. Utility. With a large W skill shot that slows and grounds enemies, she provides great zoning and CC. Her ult has a chance to slow and even stun 5 enemy champs. Potential to 1v2. If played perfectly, the chances to 1v2 are high. A double stun from your ult, followed by the rest of your abilities, will often result in at least 1 kill. Great scaling. Whether you've chosen the Ludens or the Seraphs, you scale well into late game. Insane damage to epic monsters. With enough mana and preferably a blue buff, you take monster objectives fast. Wave clear. Her QWE allow her to wave clear easily. Lane bully. She can bully out most laners, especially with Ignite. Can farm side lanes. Against certain enemy team comps, you have the option of farming side lanes. Team fights. With all the reasons previously mentioned, she's a perfect AP champ for team fights. Weaknesses. Mana problems. Careful managing your mana early on, or you'll quickly go With the items mentioned in this guide, you should be fine after your first back. Immobile. The only mobility you'll have is from landing Q. Miss that and you're a sitting duck. Skill shot reliant. Missing Q, W or ult will significantly ruin your chances of maintaining high DPS in teamfights. Use the tips and combos to increase your accuracy of Q. Squishy. Since you won't be building directly tanky in most situations, you can be bursted anytime you're in a bad position. Zhonya's can help you in many situations. Positioning kiting practice. Your ability to kite will determine how well you do with Cass. Needs experience. If you want to get better at kiting, you'll need to practice Cass. Find the balance between getting close enough to deal consistent damage, yet far enough that the melee tanks can't touch you. Needs farm. Try to stay ahead or at least even in farm. The quicker you get your items, the more effective you'll become. Before we go over specific champion matchups, let's quickly mention what makes a lane easy, medium or hard for Cassiopeia. An easy lane means Cass can bully her opponent. She outranges, outtrades and outscales. A medium matchup is usually skill based. Skill shots, whether hitting or dodging, will determine the winner. They're harder to bully since they have some movement speed or shields, they can be a kill threat and they aren't easy to kill. A hard lane means Cass struggles to bully them at most stages. They're usually extremely mobile, making it hard to hit any of her 3 skill shots. They have burst potential, so positioning is extremely important since you'll be squishy most of the game. Their sustain makes it impossible to outdamage without plenty of mana. You may need ganks to get ahead or just stay even. Easy lanes. Annie. You outrange her. Bully her until 6. When she's 6, she can flash ult all in you, so purchase a null magic mantle and you can purchase a banshees later on if you need. Rylai should give you enough health to withstand a full burst combo later on. Aurelion Soul. You will most likely have to focus on clearing waves. If you hit Q on him, the movement speed will make it easy to dodge his Q, so go aggressive when it's down. After 6, if he ever gets close, he will face you to get this distance on his Q, which will set up an easy stun ult for you. Azir. He will poke and zone you with soldiers. If he misses Q or if he ever wastes E, go aggressive on him. Karthus. If you hit your Q, you'll have the movement speed to dodge his Qs and the damage from your E to all in him. Zhonya's mid to late and he can't kill you. Kassadin. Harass and bully him hard early on. Try to spam abilities once his Q shield is down. Make use of the auto since he can't shield AD damage. At 6, push waves hard and force him to farm on the tower or he'll roam. If you ever 1v1 him, your W can stop him from whiff-walking, so play around that. Otherwise it can be tricky to hit Qs. This can quickly turn into a medium or hard lane if he gets fed. Lux. Watch out mainly for her Q snare. Her E has long distance, but you have enough sustain for it not to be a problem. If she ever wastes Q, bully her. She can decide at any time just to wave clear safely, so you can probably do the same and look for roams. It's not safe for her to enter river if you have vision controls, so constantly be a threat by disappearing off map. Rise. You outrange him. When he goes for combos, it makes it very easy to land all your skills. Stay away from his minions so he doesn't combo the minion wave and hit you with their splash damage. After 6, if he faces you for his combo, ult him. It will be an almost guaranteed stun. Twisted Fate. He struggles to ever get close to you since you outrange him. Bully him in lane when you can. At 6 he will push waves and look to roam, so make sure to ward and ping your teammates. You can stop his ult TP with a W, but it needs to be the second he ults. Vel'Koz. Generally easy to dodge his skill shots. His E knockup requires him to get close, so it will make it easy to land your Q and W. If he ever wastes Q or E, bully him hard. If he ever ults, he will be facing you, so look to cancel it with your ult. Ziggs. He has low kill pressure on you. Aim to bully and harass him when you can, forcing him to use abilities to farm. Don't stay close to minions or he'll get easy Q splash damage on you. It will be hard to get close to him with his zoning E and W satchel, so go aggressive when they're down. Medium matchups. Ahri. Easy pre-6, bully her and poke her. Go aggressive if she ever wastes charm. After 6, don't get poked down or she can all in you. Your W will stop her from dashing, so keep this in mind when fighting. Try to hit your skill shots right after she has dashed, since there will be a small delay before she can dash again. Akali. You have enough range to poke her without taking damage from a Q. Stay back. When she's in her shroud, play aggressive when it's down. It can be difficult if you go since she's a manaless champ and has HP sustain. Care at level 6 when she can all in you and her 2 dashes can make it difficult to hit skill shots. The key is to poke and harass her safely, so she stays medium to low HP. This will deny her from ult dashing into you, or she'll risk dying. Anivia. Very hard to kill Anivia with her egg passives, as you simply won't have the mana. If you move into E spam, she can use Q to zone you. After 6, it will be hard to get close as she will zone you with her ultimate, and probably wall you in. You can cancel her ult, but you must land your ultimate stun. It will most likely turn into a farm lane as she pushes fast with her ult. Brand. If he hits enough Ws or gets Q stuns, you'll risk dying, but you have potential to poke and harass him, using your Q movement speed to dodge and E to outdamage him. At 6, don't stay close to minions when fighting him or he'll get extra damage from the bounces from his ultimate. Fizz. Harass and bully him pre-6. If he uses his E, playful tricks the jump, be ready to use your W, then follow it with Q and E damage. After 6, if he manages to stay even in CS and XP, you need to play extremely passive and dodge his fish, or he can one-shot you. Katarina. Skill matchup, but you have the advantage early on. She's a melee champ, so she'll need to get close to farm. Stay away from her daggers on the floor, as she'll use them to jump to you. If you predict she'll jump to a dagger, use W and follow up with Q and E spam. After 6, push her hard into tower, making it hard for her to roam. Don't 1v1 her unless you have already poked her or you're already ahead. Nico, not too hard, but she can be tricky with her clone. Bully her early on. Don't stay behind minions or she'll hit her fast paced snare and follow it up with her Q damage, which can chunk you for over 50% HP. It's mostly a skill shot matchup. After 6, her only threat is her ult flash combo. Orianna, poke plus dodge skill shot lane. Her shield negates a lot of your poison damage. She can zone you from getting close with a WQ slow. If she ever wastes W, bully her. At 6, you can flash her ult and outplay her. Talon, harass and poke him from a safe distance, just don't let his return W, rake, hit you. Or he'll jump to you with Q and auto to proc his bleed passive. He can kill you with this combo even if you have around 80% HP. Rush Seeker's Arm Guard. Exhaust and perfect timing keystone are solid options pre-game. Veigar, try to poke and harass when you can. It will be hard to get close with his E-stun area, so bully him when it's down. Null Magic Mantle is a great early item to resist some of his burst, which can be completed into a Banshees later on. The HP from Rylai's and Leandry should suffice for burst protection. Zhonya's can counter his ult, so that's another option. Zed, you can dominate pre-6. Respect his W trade combo, but go aggressive and bully him when it's down. Stand behind minions to minimize his Q damage. When he ults you, he will always appear behind you, so time your ult for a free stun. Exhaust, perfect timing keystone, Seeker's Rush, even Zhonya's Rush are defensive options. Zoe, don't stay close to minions or she'll damage you with her Q splash damage. When she's in Fog of War, she's likely charging her Q or close to a wall for a long range E bubble. If her E is down, go aggressive. Pay attention to her W spell next to her HP bar, as she'll use this in the next trade. At 6, her ult blink guarantees she'll appear at the same spot she ulted from, so it will be easy to land all your skill shots, but good Zoes will make it hard to get close. Cleanse is an option to cancel her E sleep. Hard matchups, Diana. Pre-6 she can tank a lot of damage with her shield. You'll need to poke her and harass her while it's down. After she's 6, she's a huge threat. If she hits a single Q, she has potential to all in you. You can buy Magic Null Mantle to resist some burst and finish the Banshees later. Your W can stop her from dashing, so use it wisely. Echo, very slippery champ to land skill shots. He's able to farm safely with Q. Watch out when he's missing, as he's likely preparing his W to stun you, or just gain the W shield to farm safely and mitigate your poison damage. Don't get close or he can E, Q, auto trade and escape easily with his movement speed. Hard to kill him after 6 with his ult up, but you can stop him from ulting with your grounding from your W Miasma. Aurelia, her Q dashes make it hard to hit skill shots. She can negate a lot of your trade combo damage with her shield. Try not to ever get stunned by her or she can all in you. You'll have to outplay her using W to ground her and a well-timed ult to stun. Don't stay too close to minions as she can use them to dash to you. After 6 she can all in you with her ultimate, so play passive. Try to push the wave and avoid fighting her unless she's already low HP. LeBlanc, high mobility makes it hard to land skill shots. You will still damage her in extended trades, but she will win small burst trades. If she uses her W dash, you can use your W Miasma at her return location. Follow it up with Q plus E spam. She can dash in at any time to chain you, and you risk dying if it's followed up by a gank. After 6, it will be hard to win against the good LB, so play cautiously. Malzahar, try to get rid of his shield with an auto before you trade. Harass him early when you can. After level 4, he'll push with ease and it will be hard to kill him. After 6, play passive if the enemy jungler is missing, as a simple flash ult from Malz will cost you a death if followed up by a jungler. Best to just wave clear and threaten to roam. Syndra, she outranges you with her E stun, which will be followed up by her combo. You should only look to harass her when it's down. After 6, a simple stun combo, her ult plus ignite can kill you. You can always choose to just farm safely. Null Magic Mantle and eventually Banshees or even a Zhonya's can mitigate her threat most of the game. Vladimir, he's a manaless champ with HP sustain from Q. You will likely go before you can kill him. He can dodge your ultimate with his W pull. Don't let him damage you with his 2-stacked Q, since it has extra damage and healing. It will most likely turn into a farm lane since you have to respect his all-in. You can just wave clear and roam at this point. Xerath, really long poke makes it hard to ever get close, with his W slow and his E stun making it even harder. Try to stay around minions, so if he ever tries to harass you, he will naturally push the wave, allowing you to farm under tower and making the wave push, hopefully putting Xerath in an unfavorable position in lane. Wave clearing is best, as any good Xerath will make it impossible to get close. Magic Null Mantle is great to resist his poke. Yasuo, his dash spam makes it extremely difficult to land skill shots. His wind wall blocks everything except your Q. His shield will make it hard to damage him before you go so try to auto to remove it. If his wind wall is down, W will be necessary to ground him, then follow up with Q and E spam. Stay away from your minions since he can use them to dash to you. Exhaust, Seeker's Rush, and later on Zhonya's are defensive options. Early game. Cassio is a lane bully in most matchups early on, so going for kills and applying pressure is your main strategy. You can push wave if your jungler is invading, so you can have a priority in the 2v2 fight. She excels in 2v2 skirmishes, granted you land your Q. Farming safely is another option if you have little jungle pressure or you're in a tough matchup. She has decent roams once you've pushed waves. Fighting for objectives like dragons or towers is in your favor with your zone control from W. If you're fed in lane, going extremely aggressive and looking for 1v2s is fine. The pressure you soak will help your team. Mid game. If your team's ahead, grouping for objectives is a solid choice. Poking with W and Q is effective for sieging. You can clear waves well, so even if you're behind, stalling the game shouldn't be a big issue. You have the chance to farm side lanes if you're ahead, hopefully drawing in some pressure. If the rest of your team is behind, pushing hard and forcing 2 or more enemies towards you will help your team catch up in farm, perhaps even win fights on their own and take epic monster objectives. Late game, team fighting is your best bet at this stage. If you're able to kite with enough peel, you will decimate entire enemy teams. Your Baron and Dragon control will be insane, as your W will prevent any squishies from moving through it. You can even look for those game-changing 5-man ultimates. Again, your wave clear is insane, so stalling out if your team is behind is an option. You will be a target, so your experience with Cassiopeia will determine how well you perform. Cassiopeia's unique playstyle feels like you're playing a mix between a mage and an ADC. With the option of building for an early or mid to late game power spike, she's become a safe pick fitting in most team comps. Hopefully you enjoyed this guide as much as I did creating it. These guides will be constantly improving, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see more. Hit that bell icon for instant updates, and I'll sometimes even premiere the videos, where I'll hang out and answer questions live. I'm Zoose, and I'll see you guys in the next video.